Hello everyone, I'm home. Welcome back to my channel. Well, I want to thank you all for your nice comments about my little dining table outside that we enjoy so much. Some of you said you were going to try that, and most of you said you liked the scenery and the idea of it all together, and I really appreciate that. It's one of my funnest things. Found a couple mistakes in that video, but we're just not going to worry about those because you told me not to. This is me sweeping out my miniature Halloween collection box room with a paintbrush or an old makeup brush. I'm going to tell you a story about this little room. My little Halloween miniatures are really important to me. I've made them for years. Some of these I had in my old house, which was 17 or 18 years ago. And I move them around from my country dollhouse to my French country dollhouse. And most of the time, a whole bunch of them stay in this one little box that lights up. So I can't wait to get it out every year. And most of the time, I put it in a tote. And in the last couple of years, I've just left it sitting on a shelf downstairs, and it has glass in front of it. But I quit putting the glass in front of it because it's hard to get into to clean and to turn the lights on and off if you need to change the batteries and stuff like that. So I've just been leaving it sitting on a shelf with a piece of saran wrap over it. So I'll tell you in a little bit what happened. You can probably guess, us living out here in the cornfields. So I wanted to tell you how I made most of these little things. I just cut them out of printables and put them on cardstock and cut them out and make little stands for them to sit up. And I like to make these little treat bags that kind of remind me of what we had when we were kids. And see that little mask? I made it, and then I bent it and put a little string on it so it looked like a real mask, and then I glued it in place. And then that little book is the Charlie Brown The Great Pumpkin book. And then I've made a lot of little books. There's not a whole lot of Halloween books, and I like for mine to look vintage. So I found this one called The Halloween Book. And then that little pumpkin is probably something I nabbed from my kids from when they were trick-or-treating when they were little. A lot of times at school they would have pencil toppers, and I would be going around the room. If one of the kids dropped theirs or threw it in the trash, I'd get it. And then more pictures that I cut out. And I tried to find, real vintage looking things, and more books, the other little Halloween book. And then I would find ads for candy. And I think this is those Halloween kisses that are like wrapped up. They're like peanut butter kisses that are wrapped in brown or orange paper, which I never liked to get when I was a kid, but my husband likes them, and if we can find them, he loves them. But I looked up some old advertisements, and I cut them down and put them on cardstock, and any little thing that just makes it look like a real Halloween vintage collection. Now, there's an old ad for Baby Ruth and Butterfinger bars, so I made it smaller and put it together, and just a little Halloween sign and another treat bag that I made out of paper. These are about 1.5 inches tall. And when I was a little kid, we used to take a brown paper sack and just carry it. And Mom would say, roll it down so none of your candy falls out till we get to the next house. And then they would give us little treat bags, the little tiny ones. And that's you saw that one in the other picture. And then I made this little rug and just a lot of little trinkety things. So whenever I find a little pumpkin, a real tiny one, whether it be out of potpourri or if it's just a little pumpkin you can find at Hobby Lobby, I buy them and just set all kinds of different ones around. And I think it really makes the whole scene come together, like this little green Frankenstein mask. I printed him off and put him on cardstock and kind of bent him so he would sit up. And I put a little drop of a paint on his eyes that glows in the dark. And when that little thing's sitting out in the dark, you can see his eyes glowing. And then the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown book. It's one of my favorites. My kids had it, so I made a couple copies of it, and it's in different, like I put one in my country dollhouse, and then I have one in my collection, and it's fun. So I'm cleaning up my little dollhouse, and I'm sweeping it out, and I've got a paper towel in front of it, and I notice some mouse poop. And I thought, oh, great. And I got to looking, and a mouse had been in there, knocked a whole bunch of stuff over, and ate this pumpkin. It was just a little pumpkin that came out of potpourri, and he ate the heck out of it. So I've got to put the glass on the front again and put the hinges back on, and I have to put it in a tote this year. I don't know, if you guys are lucky enough to never let a mouse get in your house, I'm proud of you. But I'll tell you what, we live in the middle of a bunch of fields, cornfields and bean fields, and we're out in the country, and I've never lived in a house that a mouse couldn't get in. We take care of them, but sometimes you get too many. Now this little pumpkin man, the one that I've circled, he's one of my favorites. This is an old picture. I made these little guys probably 18, 20 years ago. We lived in our other house. They're only about 1.5 inches tall. Some of them, well, that orange and yellow one's 1.5 inches tall. Those are about 1 inch tall. And I made him, and I just love his little side eyes. Well, look, the mouse took his head off. It was completely gone. I couldn't find any remnants of it. So there he is with no head. I'm going to have to make him another head, and he was one of my favorite ones. So I was really aggravated, but I cleaned the whole thing out, got it all clean. There's another old picture of him. I'm going to make that same face on him and put him back together. Gosh darn it. Anyway, there they are years ago sitting in the little country doll house. He's the first one, and I just love him. And I made a little pennant to go across the top. You have to shrink the pictures down really, really small and use tweezers, but the look of it is worth it. And I put them in my old cabinets, and then, of course, you got to have miniature trick-or-treat candy for the kids to sit on your porch. And this is the whole room. A lot of those are just advertisements. Any old vintage advertisement I can find, I print it off on paper and put it on cardstock. It's pretty self-explanatory. There's nothing to it. But I find that the more variety you have and the more pumpkins you have and the different little faces they have on them, they just bring the whole scene together. And across the top, that wooden piece, that was some trim off of an old dollhouse that I was going to put together, and all the pieces weren't there. I'd bought it at a sale. And it had a lot of trim pieces for the outside of the house, and that was such pretty trim. I ended up putting it in my little Halloween collection. And we light it up at night, and we love it. So I like these pumpkins you can get at Walmart. They're just the happiest little faces, and they remind me of when I was a kid. Well, I paint them. I paint them all different colors and set them all over my house. I have several. This is this year's, and I used a black one. And I think I might have showed you the other one that I made, where I just painted gold and kind of a mustard color and then a little bit of orange and some black and sprinkle cinnamon and cloves over it. And then one of them I cut the eyes out. And then this is my little pumpkin that's sitting outside. I put a little votive in him, and I noticed the other night it turns different colors. It's blue, purple, red, and green. And then this, reminiscent of when my kids were home, I would set this little pumpkin head on top of a little candlelight in the kitchen just for a cute little pumpkin design. I wanted my kids to grow up in a happy little fun home, and I would buy these pictures at the Dollar Tree. These are so old. I've had them for years. This little sign too, but I thought the Dollar Tree did a pretty good job. Sometimes I antique them if they don't look too good. I got that little candy box from the Dollar Tree, and I pick up all kinds of little things. Those are some dolls that I've made. And the first little pumpkin bucket, Kevin got him the day we went to that free thing alongside the road. It was in a box, and he said, "This is cool." And I said, "Well, it's not real vintage." But I looked on the bottom of it, and it was from Target in 2001, so it's got some age on it. And they're just cute. And 20 years from now and 40 years from now, they'll be very vintage. And then that little treat bag back there, I've told you before, that was brought home from one of my boys' Halloween parties at school. And then that old sign I've had for probably 30 years. I've had it forever. And I make little ornaments, and I take the little pumpkins and put cinnamon on them. And my little primitive tree's in the kitchen now, in my dining room window actually, and I just love it. So like I said, I just put I've had these things for years, and the kids are gone, and we really don't have any kids around except us. And I don't know if you guys remember this scarf that I got last year after Christmas. It was orange and sheer, and it had a black embroidered design on it. It was just beautiful. I got it for 99 cents at Goodwill. I thought, oh, that's pretty for Halloween. Well, you think I could find it this year? And I just yesterday located it. So I hung it up over my hall tree with some lights under it and put my witch's ball sign up there. And like I said, it's just a little nod to the kids. And when they come, they probably won't be home before Halloween. And then I stacked that little pumpkin on top of a candy pumpkin, this paper mache that we keep candy in. And it just reminds me of my boys when they were little. They didn't care much for Halloween. I don't know if it scared them. I don't know. I had a hard time getting them dressed and getting them to go to doors and stuff. But once they got the hang of it, they usually did it. Plus, I threatened them and told them to get me some Snickers and Reese cups, and they wanted to please Mom, so they'd do that. And then Brad always has a Halloween party the weekend of Halloween. And one of my boys always dresses like Michael Myers and sits in his yard with the candy. And Brad loves it because he says half the kids won't come up into the yard, so he gets to keep most of his candy. And I don't know that they'll do that this year, but it was always a lot of fun. And Marcus wouldn't say a word, and Matthew wouldn't either, and they'd just walk around and scare people. And then these are some more Dollar Tree decorations. That's a little sign back there a friend of mine gave me. And just little touches of fall all around the house. That's my first pumpkin head I ever made, and I'd like to know how many of those I've made. And you guys remember my little slab of wood I put on that little cabinet in my bathroom, and I cut it on the edges and I stained it. Well, I never could get it stained any darker than this. It will not go darker than this, and I don't want to put paint on it. So it's going to have to stay this way. I think the stain that I used had a sealer in it maybe, and I sanded it and everything, and it just won't accept a darker paint. So it is what it is, but it matches okay, and I like it. Now my cabinet that I have in the basement, I showed you the other day, it's kind of green. I had painted it a long time ago, and I got real lazy when I got down to the bottom, and I didn't finish the green part over the blue, but it was always so full of stuff you couldn't really tell. Well, the other day, I was down in the basement and I thought, I don't like that color anymore. I'm going to do something different. So I went and found some black paint and I watered it down, and I painted the whole thing with the watered down black paint. And after I did that, I went over it with another paint that was called, there were two different colors, Tuscan Red and Berry Spice, and I watered those down as well. And I painted the whole thing. I'm watching QVC in the background and listening to what they're selling, and it didn't take very long at all. When you're using watered down paint, it doesn't take as long. And then, of course, the opening in the back there, I cover it up. But I love the way it turned out. I put a little bit of stain on it and wiped it down. I got down there and did those two bottom shelves that I was lazy about before, and I decorated it. Now, I think I have too much on it. I haven't decided yet, but it was fun to put stuff in it, and it's so much prettier, and it looks so vintage, and it looks so primitive, and I'm real happy with it. I got kind of lazy decorating the bottom shelves. I was down in the basement till 2:30 in the morning painting this thing and watching TV, so by the time I got to the bottom shelves, I didn't know what to put there, but I'll probably put some more stuff, and I wanted to put light-colored things in it. My niece had gotten me that fabric pumpkin, and I thought it looked pretty there. And then I put some of my ironstone in there, and a couple of my Halloween books, and my little candle lights, my little cinnamon pumpkin, the books that I got at the free sale in a few months ago. And I think it's got a little bit too much in it. It's got baskets across the top and some pit berries, and that's me. I'm overloading everything. But I think I'm the only one like down there looking at this stuff, so who's going to critique it but me? But once I take the pumpkin out and the fall stuff and put Christmas in, Christmas is next, guys. It's going to be so much fun. So over on the mantle where I took the ironstone away, I put my little cupboard that I made out of the drawer that has my little crystal pieces for the children's table. I put that next to Kevin's little cabin that his father made, and I thought that looked really pretty, and hopefully keeps it from falling. It's stuck back there pretty good. And then I put some cream-colored crocks up there to fill in where the ironstone had been. So we had to run some errands the other day, and we took off, and we were really enjoying the beautiful weather. I mean to tell you, we live in the most beautiful place. I know you all do too. We were loving the trees, and we were just enjoying it so much. And he would say, go down that street, look at those trees. And we were just having so much fun. And I only had a couple of things to do, and we got so caught up in the trees that we forgot to do one of them and had to turn around and go back. I thought this was cool. It was a pumpkin bigger than their house. These people had this lit up during the daytime, and it was fire. It looked like fire inside. I know it was just a light bulb. Then these people every year really deck out their house. So we go down there, and I said, oh my gosh, they've painted their house like Halloween. It's black with orange shutters, and they decorate the entire yard. And we stop there every year and tell them how neat it is, and they really put a lot. They must love Halloween. And this is going down the street. It's just a beautiful little Mayberry type town that we were in, and we had so much fun. He went in Subway and got him a sandwich, and I went to the bank, and our bank's flowers are still doing so good. And they've took a few of them out, but most of them are still there. Then I popped into one of my favorite antique stores to talk to her for a minute and took some pictures for you. I saw a lot of cute things. I don't know how many of you had a Chrissy doll when you were little, but I had one, and I didn't know that her hair wouldn't keep coming out, and I cut it. I cut it off like a bob, and my mom said, well, no more hair's going to come out. You're just going to have a short-haired Chrissy doll. But that's the doll I had, and it really brought back memories. I loved it. And then I went down in her basement, which she calls the rough stuff. I call it the cool stuff. I like the rough stuff. You know that. And I can fix up anything. That's where I got that little slant top desk that's in my basement for $12. And I just fixed it. It didn't take time at all. And I love to go down there. You never know what she's going to have. And most stuff is half off or marked down. And she had a lot of cool things. It's kind of scary down there. That's where the boiler is and everything that keeps the place warm. And it's dark and gloomy, but I love it. I can stay down there all day. Then I went back upstairs and she had this really cool sketches and cartoons of the Gibson Girls by C.D. Gibson. In 1898, this book was written, and it had the neatest pictures all the way through it. And I think she wanted $65 for the book, but it was worth it. It had the most beautiful depictions of the Gibson Girls and their beautiful clothes. And right beside it, she had some real pretty shoes, like what they would have worn, and some old perfume bottles and jewelry and powders and all the kind of things that the Victorian ladies used. And when you're walking through her store, she has everything organized really good in categories. And then this was so pretty. It was from the Victorian era, and it's all beaded, and I guess they would wear that with a dress. But I love this. It was a big shadow box with dollhouse furniture in it. And I'm telling you what, these pictures are kind of hard to see sometimes because of the glare, but oh my gosh, it was $165. But you know what? When I got to looking at some of the miniatures in it, it was well worth it. That little crock right there would bring $40 at a dollhouse show easily. It's like a little butter churn. And I love this little cabinet. It was full of little dishes and copper, and there was pottery. There was upholstered furniture. There were little tiny scarves and doilies. You break the price down on all that stuff, and you're talking some big money. And these were old, so they were probably pretty good quality. And in the background of this picture back there, you can see some rolls, and they were beautiful. They looked real. This picture's kind of blurry, but they look like real rolls, and someone made those probably out of clay many years ago, and it reminded me of my little Beef House rolls. We have a famous restaurant around us called the Beef House, and they have famous yeast rolls, and I had made these years ago, and that little plate's about the size of a quarter, so that tells you how big the little rolls are. And so I kind of got a kick out of them having some rolls on their table, and I assume they were made out of clay. And then up on the shelf on the back wall of that dollhouse was all these little blue and white dishes and some Flow Blue pitchers that were about an inch tall. Oh, I kind of wanted those, and I thought, break that down piece by piece, and you're talking some big bucks. So I don't think I'm going to get it, but it was so much fun to look at, and I would have definitely tore that box open as soon as I got it and got all the sweet little treasures out, and I would have put them in my doll houses, and it would have been great. And then I would have used the shadow box for something else. But it was fun to look at, and I was having so much fun that day. Kevin was in the car eating his Subway sandwich, and he's like, take your time, and I did. Another little child's cabinet she had was very cute. She'd just gotten it since the last time I was there and had some little dishes in it. And then she had a little section, and I've seen these before, and they're never paying attention to them, but talking about manifesting, I noticed them immediately, these little jugs. The blue one's probably 4 inches tall, but the little one, it's the gold one, it's probably 3 inches tall. Well, the other day I was in Lafayette visiting my sons, and Facebook Marketplace popped up, and somebody had a little jug for sale for $3. And it just drew me in. I don't know why. I wasn't looking for one. Never seen him before, really. I'd seen him in her store, but I passed him by. I never looked at him. And he lived about 3 blocks from my son's. So I called him, or you know how you do on Facebook, you text him. And he said, oh yeah, I've got it. I'll meet you in a few minutes in my driveway. And this is what mine looks like. And I had seen this one on Facebook Marketplace. I saw this online. But this is the one that he was advertising. And I don't know, it just spoke to me. And I thought, that is so cute. So I go over to his house and I pick it up and brought it home and just loved it. And I go into her store the other day and there's all these little jugs and they were like between $28 and $35 a piece. And I got this little one for $3 and it is adorable. And I knew what I was going to do with it. I was going to put it on my Christmas tree, my primitive tree downstairs. But you know me, I have to go all extra and think, I got to get some more of those. So when I saw them at her shop, I was drawn to them. I ran over to them and then saw the price. So I just thought, well, be thinking about those and they'll pop up since you're thinking about them. Manifestation. And sure enough, I was in Goodwill and I found this one for 99 cents. And it's actually a bell. And I just took the bell out of it, the little ringer thing, because I wanted it on my tree and I didn't want it to be a bell. And there you go. That's manifestation. I saw that little crock and I had seen them in her store before and never paid any attention. And then all of a sudden they're everywhere. So we left there and we were heading home and just enjoying the beautiful scenery. This is the highway leading into our town. It's just Old 63, they call it, and it's beautiful. This is the little country road that leads you to our driveway. And when we come around that curve, I'm always pretty excited because, as you know, I like to be at home doing all kinds of things. And I had gotten my errands done and I was so happy to be home. Now, I want to thank Bridget Swindle from Bridget's Primitive Passion. She has a beautiful YouTube channel all dealing with primitives and tours and such. And I had sent her some little handmade primitives that I had done, a little wooden bowl, a pitcher, a little crock, and she was nice enough to give me a shout out on her channel and show my items, and I thought she displayed them so well on this little, up against this little plate, and with this little, what I thought was a bear. He ended up being a mouse, I think. He's got a real long tail, which is kind of ironic since I had the mouse get into my dollhouse, and I want to thank Bridget for that. She was very kind to shout me out like that. And I wanted to shout out a channel called From Hearth to Home. It's a gal named Becky who's just a doll, and she popped up on my feed one day, and I watched her channel, and I really liked it, and I subscribed. She emphasizes that, and I really love this, that you don't have to follow trends. You don't have to put yourself up against all these YouTube influencers that show the perfect homes and on TikTok and all that. You don't have to do that in order to have a warm, comfortable, inviting home. She certainly does have one, and she collects some of the same things I do, and I love the way she decorates. I love the way she talks and tells us things. She shows us grocery hauls, and she had told us about a can of Bush's beans that are called Taco Fiesta beans, and she got them at Meijer, and I picked up a can, and they're fantastic, so I want to thank her for that. So you might run over and give her channel some love, and I think you'll really enjoy it. So I want to wish you all a happy Halloween. I hope you're having good weather and that the kids are going to have a great time. I'm going to start taking my pumpkins Halloween stuff down tomorrow and start putting a little bit of Christmas out. I've got to shape my tree. I've got an idea for my tree this year, and I'm really excited. And in the next video, I have about 4 different things to show you that I've been hinting about in the last couple of videos. And so we'll do that. And I just hope you guys are having I hope that Halloween makes you think back to your childhood and with happy memories. It's kind of fun for me to go back and just think about it and enjoy those times with my kids and when I was a little kid. And as always, I love you from the bottom of my heart.